Hi, it's Michael Kerr here, presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, I interview a fellow small business owner or an expert, and they share their stories, their lived experiences, the wins and the losses, and their best advice to help you, the listener, get the most you can from your own business. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. And thanks also to Kerr Capital, supporters of the show. Welcome into another edition of Small Business Banter Community Radio and Podcasts. Bronwyn Reid joins me today. Bronwyn, thanks for taking time to come in and have a chat on Small Business Banter.
It's absolutely my pleasure, Michael.
So for the audience, Bronwyn is she's a business owner, an author, a speaker, a mentor of other small businesses. She's just, I think, published a second or third edition of your book, which we're going to kind of chat on.
The second edition of my first book.
Second edition. And what the book is, do you want to tell me what the book is about? And just very quickly so we can set up our discussion.
Well, it's called Small Company, Big Business. This second edition has a different tagline: how to find, win and keep big customers.
So this is pitched at small businesses and small business owners, saying might seem scary, but there are great opportunities if you go about working with big businesses.
Absolutely. But I've also found that there's a secondary market. It's not a secondary market, a second market. It's the big businesses who need to engage with small businesses, but they haven't got a fact about what a small business is or does or looks like or acts like.
So there's very much a bridging of two worlds, two cultures. Yeah, okay. So
I've been called Google Translate.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Yeah. So look, do you want to just? It's going to be a great conversation. Really looking forward to it. You're going to tell us, what the opportunities are, how to go about capturing them better. Your background and why you ended up in as a Google translator between a big and a small business.
It's a long journey. I grew up as a child of small business owners. Well, they're agribusiness owners, and of course, agribusiness companies sell their produce, whatever it is, to very big companies. So I've kind of had a lifetime of being a small supplier to big companies. I lived overseas with my husband and now business partner for a decade, working in underdeveloped parts of underdeveloped countries, where very often a region is dominated by one industry or even one company. So again, you get that interaction of small businesses and big businesses. I did a bit of corporate stuff in between there, so I am a corporate escapee, so I've seen the other side of the fence as well. We returned home to Australia when our first child was born and set up our business, and which is an environmental consultancy business. Started out in agribusiness. Now probably most of our business is in mining. So we are, again, a small company supplying to BHPs and Rio Tintos and those sorts of people. So that's where all my experience has come from to write the book.
Yeah, okay. And so it's very much lived experience, and now you're sharing it back. So in the current, and look, we'll get to your website and where to find the book, etc., at the end. But do you see at the minute you've just done the second edition, which may indicate that there's more opportunities or for small businesses currently than there might have been? Is that why the second edition, and what are the current opportunities for
It's a
small?
very, very accurate assessment, Michael. COVID changed everything. COVID changed the world, and we will be living with its effects for a very long time. And apart from the horrible, horrible effects of COVID, there were some pluses for small businesses to come out of it. One was obvious to all of us. All our supply chains broke. Now, for years, big companies have viewed we small companies as a risk to deal with. We may not be able to supply, we might go broke, we may not be able to supply year-round, etc., etc. So they built these long, complex international supply chains. And then, of course, the people stopped and the planes stopped and the ships stopped and all the supply chains fell apart. So that revealed where the real risk was, and it wasn't with small businesses. So that episode has really focused on where the risk is in supply chains. And I haven't actually done this exercise, but an economist friend of mine tells me that, if you look at Google, words that are trending on Google, onshoring is one of them. Right? Big companies are actually looking to bring their supply back on shore, or nearshoring, so the supply chains aren't so long. The other thing that happened during COVID is we all reevaluated our lives. I listened to a podcast this morning about the Great Resignation, and people really reevaluated their lives, and they just don't perhaps want to live in the same sort of society as we had pre-COVID. A lot more caring, a lot more community. So we're seeing the rise of, you would have heard the term ESG, environmental, social and governance. Now, it's been around for a long, 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 long time, but it's been hanging around in the fringe press. But now it's made its way to the mainstream press, and all of these big companies are now very, very seriously looking at their environmental and social governance, and that means connecting with communities, connecting with small businesses, and basically doing business in a different way.
Yeah, and geographically speaking, that's it's shrinking back to local suppliers.
Yep.
Yeah, we heard a lot about manufacturing sovereignty during the the pandemic, and you seem to have you grew up in a gathering in a regional rural area, and is this it's whatever the opportunities are, it's great for small business generally, but is it a bit more at the pointy end in some of the regional rural communities where the opportunities lie for small to work with big, or is it just across the board?
It's across the board, but I'm noticing, for instance, local councils now are giving more and more and more giving a weighting to small businesses.
So in the definition of big businesses here, we're talking about government as well as
yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So governments have also been a part of this swing. I guess they've finally realised just how valuable it is to promote, encourage small and regional businesses. The economic benefits are, indisputable. So now state governments, federal government and state governments, and now local governments are preferring state governments have set targets of how much of their procurement spend they want to spend with small businesses.
Right.
In Tasmania, it's 50%.
Wow.
And I think in the Northern Territory, it's 90%.
Wow. So it's mandated, legislated that. Well, no. So it doesn't. Yeah, it's probably the point is that when they're spending $100 on bringing in some suppliers, they're going to have to spend 50 or not in Northern Territory, $90 out of that 100 on local suppliers of whatever that good or service is.
There are some mandates. New South Wales is moving to mandates, I believe, in the IT sector. The others, it's targets,
Right.
not yet mandates. I'd love to see mandates. At the moment, we're working with targets. But if the small business can do a good job of telling their story, and they've got the business structure and the business skills to back it up, those targets are there for the taking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So one way or the other, it's net positive, and what we're trying to do in this conversation is encourage small business owners who may, going back some time, have thought it's. I know that I've dealt with owners, and it's just going through the process of a tender or it's just too hard, too much time, and they feel like in some cases it's already decided. Why am I going to spend? So we're now saying, look, the environment has shifted.
And another thing, just in the last couple of months, I'm sure we've all heard about PwC, and that's been an issue for advocates like me for a long time. Is that so much of this stuff goes straight to those big consultancies. Well, we've got an opportunity now. Well, the government has an opportunity to change that paradigm.
Yeah. Not before it's time.
And by the way, too, a good friend of mine called Thomas has a company called TargetGov, and he does very similar stuff to me, but he specifically hones in on that government procurement sector. Yep. And according to my friend Thomas, 80% of the government spend never makes it onto a tender website. It's done through connections. It's done through knowledge. Somebody. Wow.
Yeah. For all of the protocols and governance, that's an extraordinary percentage of stuff that. I actually don't like. As long as we understand that they're the rules of the game, that's fine. Because you and I both run businesses, and I don't. Tenders aren't a part of what I do, but certainly connections and networks are critically important. So, but that's quite staggering. So,
it is. Like when Thomas first told me that, I said, no. It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And in Queensland alone, that's $8 billion a year.
Wow.
That is targeted for small business procurement.
I'm just being cynical, but that's probably good for some high-end restaurants in Brisbane where, these deals get. That's really cynical. But anyway, so let's get back to small business. And on today's edition of Small Business Banter, chatting with Bronwyn Reid, author and owner and advocate for small businesses to better connect with big businesses. So where are the opportunities? What kinds of industries are we talking about, Bronwyn?
It's across everything, and I did a joint webinar just recently with Thomas Pollock from TargetGov, and he, one of in the Q&A session, one of the people said, well, that's okay for, but what about for people like me, for my service? And the reality is that there are so many opportunities if you look for all sorts of things, like all manner of things. So don't just think, that's for,
the big guys or
the big guys or the, the big consultancy companies or the big construction companies or something. You'd be surprised what governments need to procure.
Right. Okay. So, I think what's interesting there is like, there's products and there's services and so there's as regards services when you layer on the challenges and issues around the big consultancies whereas I don't know if the government or big businesses would procure, they probably did procure services from offshore, but it's coming onshore, and maybe there's an even bigger opportunity because some of the bigger consultancies haven't done the right thing, and so smaller consultancies, that's that's really very positive. Where if you're an owner of a smaller business, where do you find these kind of opportunities to begin with? Like, is it tender link or those kinds of services that?
You look, you could subscribe to those commercial databases, sure, but if you a good place for a lot of small businesses to start is their local council.
Right.
It's a really, really good place to start. There will be a spot on your council website that sees what they're tendering.
Okay.
So start there. And if you are a local company, you've already got, probably somewhere between 5 and 20 or 30% weighting because you're a local company. You live in the local government area.
Yep.
Employ people.
You're a ratepayer, or
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then there's the government tender databases. If anyone wants to pop onto my website, I've actually got a list of the
Excellent.
state government tender databases. Then if you want to go a bit above that, then you've got things like the ICN Gateway. That's more for big projects. But if you use those websites, you can then see who won the big tender, and then you can approach them to come in under them as a sort of a second, third, fourth or fifth tier supplier.
Right. And is that at the very beginning of today you referred to second level? Is that what you're saying there, that you don't need to be the preferred or the nominated tenderer? You could be a subcontractor or whatever the form of relationship is. So still to keep very actively interested in what's being outsourced or what's being tendered.
Correct. Another big plus, and we do this a lot in our business, is joining up with someone else.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like in a permanent relationship, but in a relationship of convenience where you have a certain skill and I have a certain skill, and we actually do a joint tender.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and that's it's been creative. It's being able to stand back and say, look, my business is really good at X, and I know someone that's really good at Y. Let's talk about how we could, marry those two things and go after, bigger opportunities. I know you talked about in your core business or your other business that you've recently joint venture. How did you go about that in terms of? I mean, it's a big decision when you're running your own business to partner up, joint venture. How'd you go about assessing the others, your potential partner, and kind of ultimately getting to the point where you're going, I'm ready to do some business with them?
Yeah, we've tried many partnerships, either formal or informal, over the years. The success factor is how you approach it. If you and I are going to approach a joint tender or a partnership, we need to come at it from how can I help you, not how can you help me. What can I get out of this? It's what can we both get out of this. And a large number of small business owners do not have that maturity of thought. So we have so in our environmental business, there's some specialist types of. So one that I can use as an example is noise monitoring. So when let's say somebody's doing some roadworks or something, and they need to monitor the noise so that they don't disturb everyone around them. So they have these electronic noise monitors. Now, we don't have them. We don't have that expertise. But we have partnered with a company that does. So they send the machines up to us. They've trained us how to do it. Then we send the machines back to them, and they do the techie bit.
Yeah.
So and when that partnership went on for about 10 years.
Right.
They
Successful.
Got pulled out. Absolutely. Yeah. We've just joined up with a company with drones, because, all of this technology is just exploding. We as a small company can't keep up with everything.
Yeah.
So we join up with somebody else who does.
Yeah, look, and that's, I think, one of the things we want owners listening today to think about is whether it's just getting work in the first place in a different way. So networking, getting out there, contacting your local council. You got to circulate. I mean, there are businesses where the phones ring and work comes in, and that's great. And we're not saying anything other than where you're potentially not getting as much work as you would like, or that you're capable of doing, or that you're geared up to do. You've got to step it up a bit. So network or consider joint venturing, and either way, it's getting out and having have a structured approach to growing your business if that's your aspiration.
It's also about being aware of what's happening around you. I'm a great believer in the old pestle framework, political, economic, technological, social, technological, environmental. What is happening around your industry?
Yeah,
keeping ahead of the trends.
Yeah. So again, it's very easy to be caught up in what you're doing, and we were just chatting before this, right? About it's a rare day for where there's not anything in the diary, just to think more broadly or higher level about what you might do. What you're talking about is it has many flow-on benefits for a business, but how does it extend into, particularly in regional, rural areas, the broader community? How does it kind of underpin or support local communities, which are so linked to their local small businesses?
Huge issue, Michael, and this, I've been beating my drum about this for over 20 years. The economic benefits of large companies or government procuring locally are, I don't think a lot of people understand it. Now, our particular small company is a perfect example. Both my husband, business partner, and I are professionally trained with skills. We came back to Australia. We started our business. We got a few contracts, and we got another contracts. The stuff we're now doing 27 years later that we wouldn't have even dreamed of being able to do all those years ago. Because you do one job and then you acquire a few skills there, and then we could tender on that job now. Tender on that job, and it literally just grows. So we now have a thriving business. We get a lot of our equipment manufactured locally, so that keeps skills in the area. We try as much as we can to employ local people.
Yeah.
We take on graduates, and we've helped quite a few of them through their degree, who then contribute to society, and they play footy here, and they send kids to the school here. It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you? You're based in Queensland?
Yeah, I'm in Emerald in central Queensland.
Yeah. Yeah. So you see the. I live in a regional area, but where the footy club and the cricket club and volunteering is alive and well and really underpins the community. But we had a series of episodes on this podcast to do with cooperative and mutual ownership as a way of underpinning or ensuring that businesses stay locally operated and owned. Because the small businesses, if they don't sell, and it's the pub. I keep talking about the Sea Lake pub, cooperatively owned. If you don't have a pub, it's a big chunk out of the community. So, it's very real. Bronwyn, just in closing, I wanted to just ask you, as a business owner, you also do some work with other business owners, correct? But
yes.
Yeah, as a coach and a mentor. And for you personally, where do you kind of get your inspiration, motivation, support?
For me,
Yeah.
I have a number of excellent business mentors of my own,
Right.
and I lean on them very heavily.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're still, you said you got a thriving business, but you're still reaching out and tapping into other resources
100%,
because
100%. Yeah, I'm off to Hobart for some 4 days of training early next month. I'm going to Darwin at the end of this month. Yes, I am going to speak, but I'm also going to do an awful lot of listening and learning.
Yeah.
It comes back to that pestle thing, I think, that I mentioned before, Michael. It's, you've just got to keep your ear to the ground and what's happening.
Yeah.
Find a wave and ride it.
Yeah. And what we're saying is that the opportunities at the minute for small business are larger, more expansive than they were pre-COVID. So get out there and get into it. In closing, if someone wants to reach you, and where would they do that? And what's the name of this book, please?
Okay, the name of the book is Small Company, Big Business. This is the original edition. I haven't got a print copy of the new edition yet, but it looks similar. It's just got second edition or something.
Okay, we'll link it in the show notes, and then when we can.
Just go through to my website, which is easy. It's just bronwynreed.com.au.
Okay. Bronwyn, that's been incredibly informative and helpful. Thank you so much for spending time with us today on Small Business Banter.
My pleasure. And for any of your listeners, please just feel free to just reach out to me and we'll see if we can point you in the right direction.
Thanks, Bronwyn.
Thanks, Michael.
So that is all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. I continue to be inspired bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. If you want to listen to any past episode, jump onto your podcast platform of choice and search Small Business Banter. There you will find a diverse and fascinating collection of small business owners and experts openly discussing and sharing their experiences. For any of the links, resources, or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact me, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And it would be great to have you tune in the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.